Trinity, RedOrBluePill, HiHoKermitTheFrogHere. Come with me, and you'll see a world pure. Hello, and welcome back. We're going to go through multiverse, dimensions. Is there a hollow Earth? What's going on with the North and South Pole? This is a deep dive, and I think this is so fascinating. Let's go. The literary world. The first point discussed was the great probability of the existence of a large body of open water around the North Pole. The 14th of December, 1852, Hon George Bancroft in the chair. After the transaction of the ordinary business, the society adjourned to the chapel of the university, where a large audience had assembled to address Dr. Kane relative of contemplated expedition to the polar seas. It is extremely difficult to give the address as from the extent of the subject of this lecture, detailed, then it was read to the society. The first point discussed was the great probability of the existence of a large body of open water around the North Pole, termed Polnya, P-O-L-Y-N-Y-A, a word of Russian derivation. Although the fact of such open sea cannot be demonstrated yet, all observation confirms the probability of its existence. Not only have the Dutch and the Danish navigators reached a more temperate region as they advanced northward, the Russians and English Arctic travelers have confirmed their observations. Captain McCullum and Wilson in 1750 and 1754 reached open water at 83 degrees. So by them doing this, it goes to show where and why the Antarctic Treaty is in existence where it is today. In this book shows the oldest article dated back in the 1700s. I'd love to buy this book. And it's going to show, basically, I'm going to summarize, they're talking about seeing life beyond the poles, seeing life beyond Siberia, and in this area called Polnya. And then there is Pangea, magnets, and the study that needs to be done for geography, and why we are facing some of the things we are today, and why we have so many questions about the auroras and the colors and the lights that we see. And we know that the sun, the coronal mass ejections, and the ozone layer is not protecting us. To summarize this really quickly in this article that you can definitely stop and read, it is very interesting to find proof of this. And I can't thank you enough for having faith in me and being here and watching this till the end. I'm trying my hardest to slow down the information that I give as I find out more and more things that connect all these puzzle pieces together. So this could lead to possible places that we have not been able to travel to. Here's the rest of the article. And will leave the United States in the month of March so as to reach the Baffin's Bay at the opening of through the ice of Melville Bay. The Advance will enter Smith Sound and try to reach the most northerly point possible, when the party will leave the vessel and commence an exploration by land. The lecturer at some length gave a reasons for believing Greenland is a continent which trends to the north and skirted on the north by the open sea. Sledges are to be provided by the party, covered with gutta percha boats and the sufficient size to carry the blankets, furs, and allowance of Pendekin and 6 men. A light India rubber tent will also be taken. The chief reliance for the shelter will be the snow hunt of the Esquimaux. And thus, equipped, the adventurous little band hope to advance where the foot of man has never trodden, and bring back to the home of their fathers the first accounts of that far country. The lecturer then stated that while the primary object of this expedition was in search for Sir John Franklin, the interests of science would not be overlooked. The line of travel being directly northwards rendered the account registration of magnetic experiments of great value, and while the generosity of Mr. Henry Grinnell and Mr. Peabody of London equipped the expedition for the purpose of discovering some tidings of Sir John Franklin, an opportunity was afforded to the Geographical Statistical Society of advancing in the interests of science by furnishing the means to experiments in and making observations connected with physical geography. In his laudable desire to make this expedition subservient to the interests of science as well as the dictates of humanity, and that the required amount is immediately to be raised. So what do you think of this article? It goes back to the 1700s. It's really interesting to try to find anything that is that old, to try to find old maps and information. And I thought I would just include a little more details about this article that I found in the very end of this, and would love to know your thoughts. I hope that this was interesting to you, and can you understand where I'm wondering about how the continents shift? And the executive committee had appropriated $500 for binding immeasurable, for those immeasurable materials for history. A prospectus had been issued for the publications of that catalog, completed January of 1853. Of 1852, December 14th, there was a meeting for an expedition because they knew that they had come upon water around the North Pole called Polynya, Polnya, a word of Russian derivation. The Dutch and Danish navigators, they had reached temperatures that were in the water at 83 degrees to explore this land. And where are the findings? Where is the Geographical and Statistical Society findings for science of the Esquimaux, and reach the most northerly point possible for the exploration of land, believing that Greenland continent, which trends north of that far country, interests of science would not be overlooked. The line of travel being directly northwards rendered accurate registration of magnetic experiments. Accurate registration of magnetic experiments of great value, capable of conducting experiments and making observations connected to physical geography in the interest of science and humanity. Where is the evidence? So, before Earth or Theia crashed and Atlantis rose or fell, there was Pangea. And it talks about all these different features. And here's an analogy and the narrative, because it's very intricate, and the existence of Pangaea is supported by a great number of lines of evidence and the alternate explanation that fits this evidence. And I've been looking at maps for a long time, and I keep wondering how in the world and why is there such a great debate? So, the Scottish Highlands, Appalachians, are the same mountain range, and Central Pangaean Mountains and the remnants of this massive mountain range includes the Appalachian Mountains in North America, the Little Alaska, the Morocco, Ireland, Scottish Highlands, and part of Greenland and Scandinavia. The end of this video, just for fun, there's people that have said that they have time traveled, or people think there's multiverses or different things like that. Well, my last video about cloning and hybrids and organites makes me wonder a lot about many things. However, if you look at these maps, and then you look at the maps of the time travelers and where they said they are from and sailed from looking for certain things and had passports and documentation that didn't match anything that we have. What if? So I'm going to read the rest of this. Pangaea, it says the remnants of this plate allowed the group to make a more confident reconstruction of the Triassic-Jurassic era planet, the volcanic arcs and subduction boundary, the north and south line, roughly down the line of the Panthalassa. This gave researchers the rare opportunity to name some geographic features. Two regions of the Panthalassa, I'm not sure how to say that, ocean, divided by the plate boundary. And they called this eastern portion the Thalassa Ocean and designated the western part Pontus Ocean. And the plate beneath Pontus was the one subducted at the plate boundary, which they called Telehina. Pontus and Thalassius, I'm not sure how to say that, forgive me, were sea deities in Greek myth. And their children, the Telkines, were destroyed by gods and sent to the underworld for misusing their powers. A thought this was very suitable because their remains are detected several thousands of kilometers deeper at present, wrote Van der Meer. In addition to working on this location of these volcanic arcs, the study will also help researchers reconstruct the history of the Pacific Plate and the Panthalassa Ocean and the subduction zone of the Telkenia, and taking into account what Van der Meer previously modeled, the simple, extrapolated, and spreading ridges until they encountered a continent, that we have now proven that it was not that simple, and the tectonic history was complicated. A lot of Greek and Latin mythology. There's a lot going on with Zeus, magnetic ley lines. If you watch my other videos, I talked about that. It's very interesting. And then the planets in the sky that never change, and alignment. You know, they always say we're upside down. Well, when you go into space, don't you have to wear everything like you would if you were a scuba diver? And they don't talk about everything in the oceans that we have not really researched, or have researched but don't know about. And the arcs that they're talking about, the arcs here are like rainbow arcs. The arcs, the colors, how we see the vision, how we see light. Is that the Rainbow Connection? Well, I could definitely begin singing Rainbow Connection song, but I think I'll end the video for now. I think that the oceans and the continents and how Earth was formed and the depths of it all is very fascinating. And time travel with the north and south and true north, and latitude and longitude. I've done some other videos on that. I hope you check them out. Humongous hugs, high fives, and good vibes. Remember, never underestimate the power of kindness. Please be kind. I hope someone is kind to you.